Good afternoon from Los Angeles. Welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Alyssa Corum here with Justin Nielsen, and on today's show, we've got chart action updates for you on Zoom, Planet Fitness, and Etsy. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the major indexes. We closed with somewhat modest losses across the board. The Nasdaq finishing down about 0.4%. The S&P 500 and Dow down about 0.2% each. So, what do you make of this action? I mean, so we were in sell-off mode, then a really strong rebound, now a little bit of resistance,
yes.
and you know, the strong rally is,
right.
you know, where'd it go the past few days?
Yeah, so it's been holding. You know,
right.
So I mean, that's the way to look at this is rather than panic and say, oh my gosh, you know, we had down days, and I mean, software got really nailed yesterday, but the fact is, it's holding the gains from last week. Off the lows, it was up over 6% from last week. So the fact that we really haven't even gone into last week's territory at all.
Sure.
We did undercut Monday's low today on the Nasdaq Composite. That's the chart that you're seeing up here, and you can see we dipped down below that low around I think it was 77.90 or something like that. So we did dip below that today, but the fact that we're holding all of those gains and the gap up, you know, on Monday, we haven't even crossed below that. So this is a resilient market.
Right.
There is that potential for resistance, but at this point, it's constructive action. Now, one headline could, you know, kind of unravel everything, or it could send us right back above that 50-day moving average line. So, you know, we'll see. But at this point, constructive action, nothing to worry about. You know, keep on building your watch list and look for setups.
Yeah, with the headline-driven nature of the market, always important to be nimble
yes.
and act accordingly.
And sometimes,
when conditions change.
That can act as a catalyst either for good or for not.
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
All right, everyone, we'll be keeping an eye on market conditions, but we also want to update you on the action of Zoom today. So we saw Zoom shares up about 8.2%. Now, when Ken and I talked about this yesterday, it pulled back into buy range, but it wasn't a gentle pullback. It was
right.
It was a pretty sharp decline. And you know, IPO trades can be volatile, but a strong rebound in those shares today, good sign.
Right, and a lot of the software names, as we said, they did get hit yesterday. Not many of them were able to surpass yesterday's high, but Zoom Video was one of the exceptions, and it passed its previous day's high. It's still not at all-time highs, but it's very close. And the fact that, you know, after its earnings report, that was a day that was up like almost 25%.
Yeah.
It's held all of those gains so far. So that's really showing some resilience there as well. It is an IPO, as you mentioned yesterday with Ken. Those can be more volatile. So yeah, you saw 7% down yesterday, 9% up today. So yeah,
right.
that's what you're getting into.
Keep your guard up with those sell signals.
Know what you're getting into, and certainly don't build a portfolio full of them if you want to sleep at night.
Exactly. Well, hey, I mean, it's been a really big year for new issues. So investors, this goes to show you, investors should be keeping their eyes peeled for these IPO bases because there's a lot of great opportunities out there.
And definitely keep an eye on volume. Right now, we're not showing an average volume figure for this because we don't even have 50 days of trading yet.
Exactly.
So, but what you do in that case is you'll compare the day's volume to the most recent activity. A lot of times that first day from the IPO will kind of skew the volume, so you kind of almost need that to drop off first. But if you look at the days around it, it can kind of give you a sense of where the volume is relative to its norm.
Good point. Volume is very key to keep an eye on. And now let's turn our attention to Planet Fitness, which could be in the early stages of working on a base, but also it's nearing a potential early entry for short-term traders.
Yeah, so it hasn't gone long enough for our traditional flat base of 5 weeks. You know, it's a little short of that. By the end of next week, it could be there. But right now, the thing about Planet Fitness, again, resilience. This is one that really didn't give up ground. It's only 3% off its highs. Yeah, it's after its earnings, it looked a little poor. You know, it came down quite a bit, but it got supported. Its 50-day moving average line came right back actually that day, reversed, and started showing some strength. And it really didn't give up much ground in this latest correction either. So it got supported its 50-day moving average line again. And if it crosses that kind of area of 79.42, that's kind of its first area of resistance. And then beyond that, crossing above 80 and into new high ground. So.
Okay, so when it crosses above one of these earlier entries, are you also looking for the same things as a regular breakout in terms of wanting to see it close at the top end of its range, strong volume, those kinds of things?
All the same rules apply. You want to see that strength. The only difference is sometimes if you're doing a shorter term trade, sometimes you can get away with volume that's lower than its, we usually look for 50% increase above its average volume. You can get away with less than that if it's surrounding volume.
Right. Looking at the shorter term time period of volume given it's a shorter term trade.
Exactly. You can look at the last 10 days, for example, and if it's, strong compared to the last 10 days, that can usually be enough.
All right.
But this could very well turn into a traditional flat base and give us our traditional entry as well. So be on the lookout for that.
All right, sounds good. And let's also check in with Etsy here. It's been forming a base, recently was able to retake its 50-day line. And speaking of early entries, this one crossed above a trend line today, gaining about 3% in decent volume.
So drawing trend lines, there's a little bit of an art to it.
Right.
But what we like to do is we like to see at least 3 points. And if you look at the chart, if you just kind of connect the highs of the highest areas, you can see that it kind of formed a line that went down. And what happened today was it crossed above that downtrending line, and that can be an early entry. And in fact, that's what we did with Leaderboard. We actually put it on today at around 68, 65. So we had a point of appreciation so far, and that's just in one day. But that can be an early entry for you and a good way to, especially when you're looking for different setups, the more things you can look at, the more opportunities you have to take advantage of a rally.
Definitely. And what are your thoughts on potential resistance at that 70 level?
Yeah, so I mean that's our next stop. So we've crossed the downtrend. Now can it cross above 70, and then eventually to that new high ground around 73.44.
All right. Well, I mean the fundamentals are really strong, so hopefully we will see strong technical action from here to coincide with that.
And one of the other reasons why we put this on Leaderboard is it's a stock we're familiar with. We've played this a number of times. We had a very strong 2018 handling of it. Most recently, we took a little nip on it, but it's a stock we know. We know that it can move quite a bit, for good or for bad. But we kind of understand the story and know how the chart acts.
Very important when you're investing, understanding the story and the action there. All right, everyone, before we go, just want to let you know that we have a new episode of our Investing with IBD podcast that drops tomorrow. The guest this week is Charles Harris, who is a portfolio manager for O'Neill Capital Management. So it'll be exciting to have him on talking about buying stocks on pullbacks.
Yeah, he has he still follows CanSlim, follows all of our rules, but he does have a different take on things. And Charles is one of my very good friends. We used to sit next to each other back in 2000. So,
well, great. You can get all the details at investors.com/podcast. It's going to be another good one. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching today. You can check out all of our content at investors.com and stay up to date with all the latest by checking out our pages across social media, whether that's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter. So follow and subscribe to stay up to date. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.